I'm Aubrey Wells, and I'm going to be talking about bees and their importance to society and why we must have them in our ecosystems in order to have sustainable livelihood and crops and food and water. Everything that we need pretty much revolves around bees and how important they are to society. So for starters, they are our main pollinators. They pollinate up to 80% of our fruits, vegetables, flowers, trees. They pollinate everything, and without them, we would not have many of the crops that we rely on for food for ourselves and for cattle. I believe that we need to be more cautious of what we're doing with our ecosystems, and that we need to be more aware of how we're treating them and how whether they are being sustainable or not. Also, in the recent decade or so, we've noticed a big decrease of bee populations, and this strikes concern because, like I stated earlier, they are our main source of pollination. They also have honey, which everybody loves honey, but without pollinating our flowers and our fruits and vegetables, we would lose a big source of our food. So in order to combat this, I think that we must have a better system to have better regulations on the environmental impacts that we have, and this involves farming practices, industrial practices, etc. With the honey industry booming, and it is booming, the bees are being traveled around, the honey is being traveled around, the honey is being cut with other things, different syrups to make it cheaper, which is not good if you want pure honey. But with all of that being said, parasites and diseases are also being spread with the honey, and this poses a big threat because just like cattle, whenever you transport cattle, there is potential to spread diseases that could wipe out an entire population. Well, the same thing's happening with bees, so that needs to be better managed. And then also some of the habitats that we do have left, we need to better preserve them so that we will have more in the future, and so that we don't have to worry about the different bee populations and other animals, plants, and everything depleting because we don't have the pollinators. So with the increase in commercial farming, wild bee populations have pretty much been destroyed. Not completely, but enough to where they've been put on the endangered species list because their numbers have declined. With this being said, since more domesticated type of bees, if there's not really domesticated, but farmed bees, since they are being transported everywhere and they're on different farms, they intertwine a lot with the wild bees, and this is also kind of playing into the more farmed bee populations decreasing as well. According to Greenpeace, it's a website that deals with various environmental issues. They have been one of the more proactive groups that have talked about how big commercial farming and certain industrial farming practices have significantly depleted the bee habitats because you have to take all of the trees away and the flowers and vegetation that was previously there and put one monocrop there, whether it be corn, soybeans, any of those, which can eventually, those can affect bees because they don't have the housing and that they normally would in nature. Also, so since bees are more of a commodity now, similar to cattle, this is mostly due to the honey industry. Like I stated earlier, honey is a big commodity right now. I use it myself. It helps with allergies if you get it from your region, but with this increase, the transportation leads to many spread of illnesses, which kills off both domestic and wild bee populations. According to the Netflix series Rotten, they had a segment on bees and farming of bees, and they had recorded that some farmers were losing about half of their bees every single year. And this may not seem like a big deal, but if this was let's say a cattle farmer saying this, well, that you would really strike concern because you're like, whoa, this guy is losing half of his cattle every single year just to disease. So this is a major deal that we're not really taking serious, or as serious as we should, because like I stated, bees are so vital to many of our ecosystems. Also, so of the remaining habitats, those need to be better preserved, because like I said, without the habitats you won't have the wild bees, and they are just as vital as the more farmed bees, which are farmed specifically for honey. All of them still are pollinators. They all still pollinate the fruits, the vegetables, which include crops, and flowers, native wildflowers and trees and whatnot. And in order to preserve them, I feel like this will better maintain the amounts that we have and allow for us to continue to grow in the future, to have better numbers of bees to work with, and to hopefully get our ecosystems back to normal. Also with that, I believe that changing, not necessarily changing, but altering some of the farming practices that we have to be more sustainably rooted and to be more conscious of the effects that we have on the ecosystem will also significantly affect bee populations in a good way, along with many other environmental factors that will hopefully be good for us overall. Now there are some that state that this isn't really an issue. This is more of the mainstream news channels that have been saying this, and they're pretty much saying that the farming issues are not causing the bee epidemic, when in fact many studies have been shown, even from New York Times. They showed a study of how the different disease and parasites are being spread throughout the bee populations from transporting them and just from bringing them to new areas, along with the farming operations that are completely depleting the bee habitats. So that was debunked, and that was mostly just false. So overall, the main cause of this really is still unknown, just because, like I said, there are multiple different factors that play into this and that could potentially affect the bees. But even with this said, we still need to take this very serious because of the effect that they do have on our ecosystems and how important they are, along with, how much they pollinate. As I said, about 80% of what we eat is because of bees and because of what they've pollinated.